Hi, my name's Valerie Parente, and I'm going to do a poetry reading from my book, The Artist, the Muse. And we're going to read probably 3 poems, and then I'm going to analyze them as well. And these are all poems from as far as like 5 years ago. So sometimes I don't remember the details of what I was thinking when I wrote them, but I try to, get back in that mental space so I can really analyze it for you guys and explain the nitty gritty behind certain rhymes, certain word choices, things like that. So let's just open up to a random. I think I already read that one before. I will not do that. There's a lot of these. I'm getting to the point where I've read most of them. So forgive me if it takes a minute just to find poems that I haven't read yet. Some of these are really. That's one that I would like to read, but I'm not going to for a certain reason. The Creeper. That's good for this season. All right, so The Creeper, written in 2016, December of. Oh, I just flipped my hair and knocked over a doll accessory. Oh well. All right, so The Creeper. The creeper only came out at night, terrorizing the community with messages of vanity. The creeper swore she meant well, but no member of society believed her. The creeper had one argument to make before the angry mob in order to defend her vanity. Is it so wrong to be a visual person? Is it so superficial to prefer what is aesthetically pleasing to the pupils? If so, I can pinpoint exactly where on the spectrum my thoughts go wrong, because I possess a black or white mindset that can only think in extremes. Darker light to touch the eyes, and I chose the dark because the light is blinding. As the bold civilians sympathized, the timid civilians empathized. I don't remember what triggered this poem. This is actually really hard to analyze because I don't remember really anything about it other than the concept of being a visual person and seeming shallow about, liking things for their looks, wanting to look pretty, wanting to look correct. And then I guess I called that part of me, because I believe this was definitely from something I was feeling. I'm pretty sure I was describing myself as the creeper, which makes sense for many reasons. At the time, it was more, I think I needed a creepy name for something that sounded kind of negative, because let's see, let me just go through it. It starts out with the creeper only came out at night, terrorizing the community with messages of vanity. This is that shallow part of you that is very visual and wants to look good, maybe think more about looks than actual mental, emotional things. But the point of the poem, as I'm discovering it now, it's kind of saying, like, why is that a bad thing? Why is it so bad to care about looks? And I guess that's where it goes. So the creeper swore she meant well, but no member of society believed her. The creeper had one argument to make before the angry mob in order to defend her vanity. So this is somebody who's obsessed with vanity and really full of themselves, and society sees it as a very ugly trait. And there's a mob, apparently. At least that's what this whole metaphorical situation is. And then the creeper, her defense is, in quotes, is it so wrong to be a visual person? Is it so superficial to prefer what is aesthetically pleasing to the pupils? Okay, so this is definitely commentary on being an artist. And, in one sense, it's like, oh, you're such a bad guy for caring about looks, for caring about how you come across visually more than anything else. And I think what this is saying is, well, I'm an artist, and I think the creeper is representing the artist. So I'm an artist. What do you expect from me? I care about visuals. I create visuals for a living. I create visuals to cope with my own mindset. And it even says this creeper's mindset, this artist's mindset, they say, I possess a black or white mindset that can only think in extremes. That's a very OCD trait. There are certain patterns of thinking that people with obsessive compulsive disorder have, and one of them is called thinking in extremes. And that's this whole concept of thinking in black and white. It's either black or it's white. It's either amazing or horrible. There's like no in between. And I definitely get that a lot. And I guess as an artist, I get that a lot as well. And it really permeates my work and my mindset for when I'm creating something. So going back to that line, and then the line before the black or white thing says, if so, I can pinpoint exactly where on the spectrum my thoughts go wrong. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so what I did here is I took a lot of terms about vision and incorporated it in this statement, because it starts out with, is it so wrong to be a visual person? And then I go on to explain what it means to be visual, to prefer what is aesthetically pleasing to the pupils. That's really just an explanation of what vision is, and I guess what you might call superficialness. And then the other term that I use is spectrum, because when you think of vision, spectrum is definitely relevant in that thought. So if so, I can pinpoint exactly where on the spectrum my thoughts go wrong. It is saying in the scale where my thoughts go wrong, but I definitely purposely use the word spectrum, because that is also a word that talks about color and, like the is it called a wheel of color? Spectrum is just like the whole span of colors. And because I possess a black and white mindset, black and white, extremist thinking. Dark or light touch the eyes, that's just what vision is. And I chose the dark because the light is blinding. And I guess that's really what it's like to be a artist who likes gothic things and dark things, and not necessarily negativity, but drawing inspiration from the dark moods that we go through. So that's pretty interesting. And it says the light is blinding because what is, I believe white is all colors combined, and that's what creates the blinding white. It's all of them combined. Dark is the lack of color. And I guess the whole of, I chose the dark because the light is blinding, it's just so overwhelming. It's all the colors, it's everything. It's so overwhelming. At least that's how I see it now at age 26 when I'm reading this. And then it ends with, as the bold civilians sympathized, the timid civilians empathized. So that's an interesting line. What did I mean by that? As the bold civilians sympathize, like they're like, okay, I guess I can understand your point. The timid civilians, the ones with anxiety and who might also have an artist complex empathize. They really feel what you're saying. I dig that poem, or prose piece, whatever the heck you want to call it. That's interesting. That's cool to read during October. So yeah, I think The Creeper is commentary on being an artist, and it's definitely a fitting title because being OCD, I come across as a creep because I remember a lot of details and can't stop thinking about them. So I like that. What else? This is a long one. Sage of Tarkus. It's about a wise woman. I guess while we're going on these like flash fiction pieces, I might as well read the Sage of Tarkus. I might not do too much analyzing because it's long. Okay, Sage of Tarkus. The heartaches of war that plagued the land of Segedusas left many civilians absent of faith, lost, looking for a reason to live again. Determined to receive some sort of direction from a beacon of wisdom, a damsel from Segedusas traveled 30 miles by night and steed to arrive at a cabin deep in the woods of Tarkus, home of the most acclaimed sage in all of the land. She had been on a journey for the past 3 years, searching for an answer to all her sorrow. This girl with her mint green eyes convinced herself that the cure to her faithless haze could be found by falling in love. Oh, I see where this is going. Her journey for the past 3 years was none other than a quest for a beloved hero whom could fill her life with purpose and interpersonal connection. Not a good mindset. The gown worn by the damsel of Segedusas billowed like a blossoming tulip as she seated herself across from the stage. I've been expecting you, dear, the pale old woman stirred her chalice, making a burgundy whirlpool of the most fragrant truth serum. As the aroma wafted into the stuffy cottage, the damsel's nostrils were filled, and the knowledge she had denied deep in her core of her brain was activated. With a confident nod, the sage pointed to the knight on the stallion, outside of the cabin, whom had brought the Segedusas maiden so far along her journey. He is the one, the strong-minded sage determined. The man on the stallion is the man you will wed. For a fleeting second the damsel's brow furrowed, then quickly vanished. Suddenly, with a panic, the enlightened yet shocked girl hastily shook her head, as if to rattle away the wisdom of the perceptive woman before her. "Oh, no, no, he can't be. I've known him for 3 years. He's always been there in the background. If he were the one, I would have known." "Dear," the sage's raspy voice lowered to a tender lull, "knowledge does not require your conscience consent." Cool line. Go, Val. All right, knowledge does not require your conscious consent. Sometimes our subconscious knows at first sight, but our mind does not realize that what we have felt was knowledge until years have passed. It took the frazzled girl a moment to respond. Her mint green eyes shivered as she struggled to make sense of the sage's wisdom. How could it be? How could she have wanted something so badly, but have never realized it was right before her eyes? Adamant that the sage of Tarkus must have made a mistake, the damsel allowed her stubborn mind to wander aloud. "But how can he be my hero if he does not have my most coveted traits?" That's like someone's type, when someone's your type, and you like someone who's not what you think your type is, and you're like, well, how could they be the one? That's what that is. Sorry I'm interrupting, but interesting. "Well, what are you looking for in a hero, my dear?" the sage asked. A hero who has the same interests as I do. So he is a reflection. A hero who loves me unconditionally. So he is a father. A hero who knows how I feel before I say it. So he is omniscient. Having given up, the damsel sunk deeper into her seat. "Dear, what your heartbreak longs for is not a partner. What you are describing is not an equal. You are describing a god." Having given up, the Segaduce's girl fell deeper into her subconscious, realizing the knowledge her depressed mind had repressed for so long. Wow. Okay. Wow. I know what this is about. This is, let me just put this aside for a second. This was written in 2017, it says. Later than I would have expected. I might have written it before, but not published it until 2017 on my website. But first of all, the weird titles like Tarkus, the location Tarkus, and Segaduces, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember what they mean, but I got them from the Estonian language, because one of my favorite singers of all time is Curly, who is from Estonia. She's amazing. Definitely check her out, Kerli. But going into it, this is definitely about falling for someone you don't expect to fall for. Someone who is not exactly what you think your type is. And that's a really interesting feeling when you realize it, and when you realize that, you know, they've been there all along. That's what it's about, at least. So this is about realizing that. And there's a couple of facets to this that I find very interesting. Let's try to go through it. So the heartaches of war that plagued the land of Segaduces left many civilians absent of faith, lost, looking for a reason to live again. I think that's commentary on having mental illness and depression. And the heartaches of war that plagued the land, I think of the war going on inside my head for years and years and years, because I invested so much in my mental illness for so many years and didn't have a real life, really. I didn't have a social life. So I think that the war that plagues this society and this damsel is commentary on mental illness that kind of is at the forefront of your conscious for so many years. And then it goes in, determined to receive some sort of direction or some beacon of wisdom. This damsel, who's been going through this mental illness, traveled 30 miles by night and steed. So the person with her, she wasn't thinking romantically of, but they were always there. So she travels, she tries to find love with someone. She's looking for that reason to live, which is don't do that, guys. Don't, and I know it's hard to say as a girl, because I think we've been groomed to think that we need a man to feel like our life's complete. Feeling like you have a reason to live, when you finally like get a crush on someone and have those butterflies, you suddenly remember like, oh, it's exciting to be alive, which like not healthy. But that's something a lot of us feel. Maybe guys feel it too. I think a lot of us feel like romance gives us purpose. So this girl is a little misguided. She's gone through mental illness for so long, this war in her head, this war in society, and now she needs a reason to live. She needs some kind of direction. And being in a relationship, being a partner, gives you direction. If you don't know what you want to do for a career, at least you feel like you're moving forward if you are with someone and you're actively making memories, things like that. So I think that's what a lot of us feel and want, especially as young adults. So her journey for the past 3 years was none other than a quest for a beloved hero. We already talked about that. Yep. I've been expecting you, dear, said this sage, this wise woman. So she gets truth serum to, initiate a conversation, an honest conversation with the damsel. So he is the one, the strong-minded sage determined. The man on the stallion is the man you will wed. So I guess that's kind of like, I think for some people, when you are chasing someone and it's not working out, sometimes the person you're supposed to really like maybe be with or really value or realize has been the hero you were looking for is a friend that was with you through all of this trying to make a romance work. So I think that's what that's talking about. And the sage is and the damsel is so shocked. She's like, how could he be? He's not my type, basically. I would know. I would have love at first sight because I've had that before with someone else. So I feel like that's always going to happen. I think that's what it's referencing. So the damsel is like, no, it can't be him. He's always been around. I never thought of him that way. And this is where it gets really interesting. And I've thought of this to myself, obviously, because I wrote this. But dear, the sage's raspy voice lowered to a tender she says knowledge does not require your conscious consent. So deep down, she's telling her you knew he was the one, but you knew it subconsciously. It wasn't at the forefront of your conscience. You weren't aware of it. So how cool is that line? Knowledge does not require your conscious consent. That is such a cool line. Because a lot of the knowledge you take in, it's always in the back. It's been stored in your brain, and you're not constantly thinking about it actively. So that's a really cool line. And she says, sometimes our subconscious knows at first sight, so that's the love at first sight that you were expecting to feel. Your subconscious felt it. You didn't notice it because it wasn't on the forefront of your brain. But our mind does not realize what we felt was knowledge until years have passed. Sometimes it takes a while to realize these things. All right, so then this gets really interesting. I love this interaction that the sage is asking what she's looking for. And she says, well, what are you looking for in a hero, my dear? The sage asked. And so the damsel goes, a hero who has the same interests as I do. So hero isn't a partner. So she's looking for someone who has the same interests as she does. And the sage goes, oh, so he's a reflection. You're basically looking for just a reflection of your own ego by saying that. And then the damsel goes, no. A hero who loves me unconditionally. And the sage goes, oh, so he is a father, like a parent figure. Because that's definitely where unconditional love is foolproof and definitely there. Not always, but, the father figure type of thing is what she's like, oh, you're looking for a father figure. She goes, no. A hero who knows how I feel before I say it. And this is something that when you're very lonely and mentally ill and daydreaming about a good ideal partner, you kind of have very unrealistically high expectations of somebody who can just get it instantly, get what's going on in your head and read your mind. So that's what I think that means. A hero who knows how I feel before I say it. Very unrealistic, but that's what she deeply wanted. And then the sage goes, oh, so he's omniscient, which is impossible for a human. And then, having given up, the damsel sunk deeper in her seat. She's realizing she's asking for something that is not realistic. And that's when the sage breaks it to her. She says, dear, what your heartbreak longs for is not a partner. You haven't been looking for a partner. What you are describing is not an equal. You are describing a god. So isn't that kind of like what some people are looking for? When they're looking for a partnership, some direction in their life, some purpose, aren't they kind of supplementing this need for a higher, for faith in a higher power, God? So those things that the damsel was describing, or that I think a lot of you guys might feel at some point in your life, you want someone who knows what you're going to say before you say it. You want someone omniscient. You want someone who loves you unconditionally, like a father figure, a parent figure. You want someone, what was the first one? With the same interests as you do, or reflection. These are all traits of maybe not everyone thinks this, but for me, these are all traits of God. These are all traits that belong to an all-knowing and whatever dictates the universe, or whatever created the universe. Maybe it doesn't dictate how things happen, but for me, the God is just the creator of the universe, that unconditional love, that faith, that direction, that feeling like everything's okay, I'm loved unconditionally. Somebody out there, even when I'm lonely, there's some mentality out there that does understand how I feel even before I say it. And then, you know, I keep forgetting the first one. And then the other one, I already explained, omniscient and father. And then the reflection. I think in many ways the universe. If you ever see synchronicities in your life, things that seem like they should be coincidence, but they're too, you just can't see it as coincidence. You think there's meaning when something creepy, the synchronistic event happens in your life. That's kind of like what this reflection is. So a hero who has the same interests as I do. Oh, so he's a reflection. I think the universe is a massive reflection of your mental state. That's why they always say, you know, like, have a positive mindset and positive will come to you. If you're always negative and finding the worst in everything, your life feels very negative. So that's kind of like, I think God is also a reflection. So how interesting is it that the point of this flash fiction piece, this daydream, as I wrote it, was that wanting to have direction and being misguided and thinking, oh, a relationship, a partner, a boyfriend, that's how I'll find my purpose. I don't need to know anything else going on in my life. That's how I'll find my purpose. And in the beginning, it kind of starts out with, well, you're so stuck on having this romantic fairy tale, you're not realizing that the people who are good for you, one of the, you know, this person, in this case, the knight who is good for you, was on the sidelines with you all the time, and you didn't have that conscious love at first sight feeling. In your subconscious, you were comfortable with them and you had a bond with them. But you didn't really realize that they could be the one. And then towards the end, it explains what you were looking for, and, you know, in the end, all along, you wanted a God. You wanted faith in a God. You wanted guidance. You wanted someone who knew everything going on inside your head. You didn't want to be alone. You wanted purpose. You wanted faith. That's all those things she was describing are traits of God or the universe or whatever spawned this universe. So I totally haven't read that poem since it was published, and I love it. I think that's a really good mindset that people should. I think this is a good thing to read if you're, like, honestly a female, because we do get so caught up in this mindset that everything will be better once we have a partner. I think this is just a really important piece. So this was an interesting poetry reading. It was more flash fiction reading today. I read my prose pieces, my little daydream stories. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Sage of Tarkus, and then the Creeper. Very cool. That was like, I'm excited about what I just read. All right, so if you're interested, you can always buy the collection. It's called The Artist, the Muse on Amazon. And if you're not interested in that, check out my website, valerieparente.com, or the old URL was valerieparente.wordpress.com, which still takes you to the same place. All right, thank you. Bye.